listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Visit Johnston County. Johnston County, North Carolina, affectionately known as JOCO, is located just 30 minutes east of Raleigh, conveniently located where I-95 meets I-40. Great for a day trip or weekend excursion, JOCO offers an emerging culinary and craft beverage scene rooted in rich agricultural heritage. From a bar celebrating the golden age of cocktails, to a 100-year-old moonshine recipe, to a gristmill that's been in operation since before the Revolutionary War. Go to johnstoncountync.org to learn more and come explore JOCO for yourself. Meet the families behind the experiences and learn the unique history behind each product. That's johnstoncountync.org. Our stories take generations to tell.
You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NC F&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today I would like to thank Johnston County for lending us another one of their favorite adopted sons. He is the founder and owner of Instill Distilling out there in Clayton. He is one Eric Tansey. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
What's going on,
Quite
man?
the intro. I almost sound important.
Almost. Not quite.
We'll
Let's
be
not
the
give
judges
yourself-
of that.
Tone it down a little bit.
Yeah. Real quick, before we get into it, you and Matt, you guys just became BFFs during the pre-interview that I was not privy to. But, Matt, we're going to take a quick moment to talk about your coffee-making prowess. Here.
Well, my coffee-making prowess, if you ask Eric, is quite impressive.
On point.
I had some issues with the coffee maker this morning. As we know, I don't really come to the kitchen studios all that too often, so I'm not usually the one making the coffee. But yeah, I had some issues. I like my coffee strong, and Max feels that I went a little bit too much on the coffee grinds, and thus there was a mess. And
Well, for one, you are here once a week, so I'd consider that pretty often. It's consistent.
yeah, but I never make the coffee.
Let's just say Matt's not what we like to call a domestic.
Well,
I doubt Matt does his own laundry. Matt probably doesn't wash the dishes. Matt rarely mows the lawn.
Definitely do the dishes. Rarely mow the lawn. Definitely.
Don't make the coffee.
No, I definitely make the coffee at home.
Just so the listeners know what I'm talking about and why I'm even wasting time talking about this. I open up. There's coffee grounds all over the place. There's a very small amount of water per ratio to the amount, the kind of obscene amount of coffee grounds that were put into the coffee maker. And then as I'm pouring from the carafe into our little coffee still here, just grounds all in the coffee. So yeah, it's good, but it's chewy.
You know, I'm a result-oriented person. So, Eric, how's the coffee?
The most entertaining coffee experience of my entire life. He's a true barista.
Thank you.
Entertaining. The coffee's wonderful. We have a saying around Instill that there is no joy without sacrifice. Because everything that's good has a lot of sacrifice. And I feel like this coffee, he had water all over the floor, water spraying on the walls.
It's a lot of waste.
A lot of sacrifice.
A lot of waste.
But the joy is superb.
Awesome.
Supreme.
And being a barista, Matt has a cynical view of life. So totally perfect, as a barista.
I did, as a matter of fact, I will, this is a long time ago, but when I worked at one of Lydia Bastianich's first restaurants in Becco, which is in the theater district of New York City, we pumped out coffees like nobody's business because you were behind the bar, but you had the big espresso machine. That was probably one of the least favorite parts of my jobs. I mean,
sure. I feel like you have to have a certain amount of emo to serve coffee. You know what I mean? You have to be a little bit
like
emo.
Yeah.
Like emotional.
Like a good barista is always emo.
Yeah, you got to listen to some Jimmy Eats World or some...
no off-colored hair.
I'm in the middle.
Maybe a nose piercing somewhere.
It's a good Jewish band, by the way.
Oh, Jimmy Eats World? Is that right?
What's the acronym?
I don't know.
Oh, can we say that online? Can you say
JEW, Jimmy Eats World.
Oh, never knew that.
Hiding in plain sight.
Wow. Another, and we'll give another shout out. Rest in peace, Neil Peart, another one of the Tribe.
Thank you
musician.
for mentioning that out loud.
Yeah.
We are not a music podcast, but I have been distraught these 4 to 3 days since good old Neil Peart. He passed away, 67, of brain cancer in Santa Monica. But I have been listening to Rush songs all weekend long. My wife, who is a fan, is over the Rush tribute that I've been creating.
Shocker that your wife doesn't like Rush.
No, she likes it. They're fine.
She does.
But then once we stopped playing Rush songs on Spotify, then I grabbed the old guitar out and then started playing every opening riff I knew, which was like 20 different Rush songs. The Trees, Red Barchetta, Limelight, Spirit Radio. I could keep going. Fly By Night. Give me all those songs. Anyways, he will be missed and a major inspiration to many people out there. And I love seeing all the love we saw on social media about, his passing and what it all meant to all of us as musicians growing up. So, anyways.
Yeah, but I guess how that breaks down to you. So, emo in your coffee, what does that mean for your distilling? What is Instill Distillery? And what are you trying to instill?
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows anymore?
Right.
No, just based on the term instill, we try to instill a certain amount of values. We're not political. We're not religious, although I'm not afraid to tell you what I am religiously, and I'm not afraid to tell you what I am as a politician, like politically wise. We just don't get into it very often. We instill values of hard work and family first, and that's it. Mm-hmm. If you can manage those two things, we can be friends. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you are politically. It doesn't matter what you are religiously or what your background is or what you do and who you do it with. It doesn't matter. If you work hard, if you're a hard-working human being and you take care of your responsibilities, then we're good. And we try to promote healthy lifestyles, so we're not a take shots brand. We're not a let's get party wild brand. We are a very blue collar brand with a white collar spirit at a blue collar price. Wine is our biggest passion, and we want our spirit to be like a wine. We want you to have an experience as if you were having wine with our spirits, and so we want to instill that sense of accomplishment at the end of your day. And that's why our bottles are the way they are. They look like a wine bottle. They have art like a wine bottle. Yeah. And they're very feminine. And if you go to the liquor store, nothing's feminine. Yeah. Unless it's like, pink glitter vodka or something like that. Right. Not saying there's anything wrong with pink glitter vodka. I love that.
The podcast.
Yeah, I would drink it.
Get your pink glitter vodka. Use the promo code pinkpodcast.com.
But, we wanted, and, we're not feminists, or we're not trying to make a statement by having women on our thing. Actually, it happened by accident. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do for our bottles. We built that distillery, every part of it, we built it with our own hands. We don't have any bank loans. We don't have any major investors. We don't have a credit card. I mean, this is 3 guys who work full-time jobs and put their money into this and banged every single nail, even though we're not builders. Like, we were YouTubing our way through it. And if you ever look at our distillery, knowing that we've never banged nails before, it looks pretty rad.
I was going to say, if you look at it, you're like, I can tell those guys aren't builders.
A little leaning tower of distillery.
Sure, yeah. But our parking lot, we laid every single brick in that parking lot. It's the most environmentally friendly parking lot in all of Johnson County. We could say that. Wow. And, we laid every single brick in there. We cut out. And if we did have to hire somebody, we hired veteran-owned and operated businesses or law enforcement-related companies. So, like, for plumbing and electric, obviously we hired a lot of that.
What is an environmentally friendly parking lot?
So what we use is turf stones, and grass actually grows up between the stones. They use it a lot in Chapel Hill. And basically, there's zero runoff. Like, no water makes it from our parking lot into the Neuse River. Everything stays right there in-house. And when you look at it from the road, it's supposed to look like grass, but it's hard concrete. And they're called turf stones. Yeah. I say it's the most environmentally friendly parking lot, but our landscape guys, there's a little language barrier there. But they were like, I don't know how you're going to keep all the weeds out of your parking lot, but we hit it with enough Roundup to keep the grass down.
So you ruined all your efforts.
So between that and my wasting of water with the coffee this morning, all your environmental
most
altruistic.
environmentally unfriendly parking lot at this point. But now grass is starting to grow. So.
You have We have to unpack all of what you have just said because you've said a lot of things right there. You just beat me to like 9 of my questions.
Sure. Okay.
So let's start. One thing you did mention, and I know you've already talked about it a bunch of times, but it needs to be told.
Okay.
You said you're a blue collar guy as well. You were like literally in the blue. You were a Raleigh police officer along with some other guys, part of your team that did all this. And of course, like in August, it broke that you were no longer a police officer.
Right. So
due to some stuff.
Sure.
Just to qualify.
Thanks for bringing it up. Thanks for bringing it up. It's a dark road. It's a dark path. I just got over it. But you brought it up, so now I'm going to have to...
That wound was about healed.
Yeah,
but let's just qualify that. He was not only a police officer, he was Raleigh's Police Officer of the Year. Was that...
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
So...
Wow. Okay. Right. So, and when you do, you've been public about this because you put it on your Facebook page. There are many, many videos and documents about this in local, Triangle Raleigh news. So it's out there, and it just happened in August. So we got to get into this.
Go for it. Well, I'd like to start by saying one of my business partners is still a full-time lawyer, and that's awesome. And he's one of the hardest working people I've ever met. My other business partner is still active duty military, still serving in special operations. And obviously they're going through a rough time right now. Mm-hmm. Can't really talk about that, but the guys I surround myself with are absolutely incredible. But yes, I was a full-time Raleigh police officer. Building this distillery with the help of my friends and supervisors. There was no secret behind what we were doing, right? Yeah. All over social media. And it wasn't really the fact that they had a problem with it. It's how they went about addressing the problem. They waited until we were opening the distillery just a few days prior. And then they pull you aside and said, the values of a distillery owner do not coincide with the values of a police officer. Even though I had asked every supervisor if this was going to be okay. And, it's all about reasonableness. I asked for a leave of absence, and they really came down with the strong arm of the law, exactly what they preach against doing. And and so they said you can resign or you can be fired, and I've never quit anything in my life.
So if you go into the RPD office handbook about secondary employment, there are certain jobs you are not allowed to attain while being a police officer. Officers are prohibited. I'm reading this from the book.
You didn't think you were going to be read the letter of the law today, did you?
I don't care. I've read it 1,000 times.
Officers are prohibited from working any type of employment that presents a conflict of interest or that brings discredit upon an officer, department, or the city. Now, the specific types of employment that are prohibited are things such as a process server, an employment involving repossession of property, like a repo guy, a bail bondsman, a private investigator, somebody that works for an alarm company, or a locksmith, or a bill collector. Those all kind of make sense because that's part of security. That's like, all right, we want our police to protect and serve, but you also don't want somebody that can like double dip and like know how to get into all this stuff without going through the process of the law, due diligence. But the last one, any employment involving the sale or handling of alcohol is also part of that.
Sure.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is totally different.
Right.
Which means that you are like always you're breaking the law, or you are a criminal in a sense by just creating alcohol.
And it's deeper than that because at the time there was other officers that were working. There was actually a guy who has a wine website who sold wine online. Very high ranking officer, which I don't care about. That's great, right?
Yeah.
Like do it. Do your thing, right?
Yeah. You yourself had a wine blog which has a significant amount of followers.
Yes, yeah. And so, other officers handling or sales of alcohol, I get it. You don't want to own a bar and get people hammered, but what is handling alcohol? Does that mean you can't work at a gas station off duty because you got to stock the beer shelves, and that's handling alcohol? And so when I had talked to higher ranking officers about this process, they were like, well, the department's not going to like it, but I'm pretty sure that they can probably talk through it, and they'll probably give you rules and stipulations, and you'll have to decide whether that's worth it. And what we were hoping for was, you can make the alcohol, but after that, you have to be hands off. You can't sell it. You can't distribute it. You can't serve the tastings. You can't do any of that. That's what we were hoping for. What we thought was going to happen was probably like, okay, you can own this company, but you better not touch any of that alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we thought was going to happen.
Which,
and so
I know that you wouldn't say this out loud, for fear of like an indictment or whatever. But like, couldn't your wife just own the company?
Yes, absolutely.
Like somebody else could have been the owner.
They brought that up as an option. They were like, "Why don't you transfer that over?" But if you've done the TTB paperwork and you've gone through that arduous 1.5-year process of trying to get that paperwork, could you imagine having that start that over?
Yeah,
that's not. I mean, we'd already burned 2 years of money into this thing
so it's
of our own money.
It's a passive aggressive way of like being, we're totally aware of you doing this, and we're not going to tell you this is against the rule.
Because they're all about covering their own assets, and so they know that if they told me 2 or 3 years ago, then I would have time to plan and fight this out and make a big deal. But if we wait till the last second, we'll get them. And that's where I have a big problem, is because you've gone through a hiring process, which is a very difficult process to become a Raleigh police officer. It's like out of every 1,200 applicants. Like they pick one. So like 1 out of 1,200 applicants make it as a cop.
And you were a good one.
Yeah.
As stated before, Police Officer of the Year the year prior.
And so they vetted you very well up until this point, and they trust you with, in some crazy situations. They trust you to do the right thing. In an unreasonable amount of situations, they expect you to make the right decision every single time. And if you don't, there's hell to pay, potentially jail time, right? So the fact that they couldn't sit down and have an adult conversation about this and say, like, listen, we know this is what's going on. Would you be willing to take a leave of absence for a year? If the distillery doesn't work out, we'd love to have you back. But just it's too much litigation. We're too afraid of what the media might say about this. But no, they don't. They keep it a secret, and they're always conniving, and it's very, it's disgusting the way that the internal affairs works at that police department at this juncture in life. They are absolutely headhunting police officers at every angle, firing officers for, not for police brutality, not for anything nefarious, but for schematics on what they said on their body camera alone in their own cars. Yeah. Because they forgot their body camera was on. And, could you imagine going your entire day having a video camera on? And everything that you say, the conversations you have with your wife.
Yes.
I just was having a casual conversation with somebody who's a lawyer on Friday. We were just actually talking about random things, and then he said, "You do realize that it's innate humans break the law almost uncontrollably.
Sure.
Like you will always be a few miles over the speed limit.
Sure.
You probably don't stop exactly at the stop sign perfectly. So for a police officer to be held to that letter of the law just doesn't seem reasonable.
It's not. And you know what? But officers are fleeing the Raleigh Police Department at an all-time high. I mean, they are losing officers. Like there was 1 week, 8 officers quit in 1 week, and it's hard to get it. And so, I remember in the statistic was in 2000. I think there was 760 officers for the city of Raleigh. Yeah. We dipped below 700 this year.
That's crazy.
And it's 2000. It's 20 years later.
And we're expanding and growing as a population. Sure. So if we ever needed more police, it would be now.
Now, they try to strew those numbers by saying, oh, no, we actually have 800 and something officers, because they're counting the officers that are actually in the academy. Or they try to account
but they haven't
people
made it yet.
Right. And they're using those as numbers. So a lot of my supervisors, even I remember listening to them going this is crap, because you can look at our roll call sheet and we'll have 4 officers for the entire Southeast District, which is the most crime-ridden district of the city. And you might only have 4 or 5 cops working for the whole night. And then they'll say we brought this up as an issue, as a personnel issue, and they say, oh no, we're overstaffed, and it's clearly not. They are taking officers that are still in the academy and plugging them in on their little spreadsheets to kind of show that.
Yeah, for political impression. Yeah. But I have to question you on something, though, because that not raised a red flag, but kind of made me think twice when you said, there's 1,200 applicants for one position in the police force. So they do have a lot of applicants, but then on the other hand, you're saying they don't have a lot of police officers. Right. But also, coming from New York, I remember that was always an issue. They literally don't have enough people that are wanting to become police officers anymore.
It's a terrible job.
Right.
It's an absolute.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to that. I wouldn't personally want to be a police officer, but
it's really hard. And so out of those 1,200 applicants, somebody's going to have some kind of sickness that they can't get over, or somebody's going to have issues with that. Our academy, I think we started off with 64 people or something like that, and we graduated 28.
Okay.
So you have a lot of quit, and we were one of the highest graduating classes.
Okay.
I mean, they canceled academies because they just couldn't find anybody qualified to be a cop.
Well, and also, and this goes into your own story, is that many officers, or I would say a very strong path, is to go from the military then into the police force.
And maybe, like, there was 2 military guys in my academy.
Oh,
that
I thought it would be a higher number.
No, and a lot of the military guys quit really quick.
You know, Max, I just want to say, like, your Californian perspective, that's very common in Los Angeles. Yeah. Like, I would say probably dominantly forced because also you have Camp Pendleton and everything like that of military. Although we have Fayetteville out here. But
we do. I think, you know, military being that, like, we're in a time of war and we've been in war for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
stay in the
military veterans, they either stay in or if you get out, you're done. Like, you don't want that anymore. Like, you're tired of that high risk environment and you're ready for something else. So, you know, and being in the military and then coming into law enforcement is so different. It's very hard to transition from military to policing. It doesn't seem like it should be that way, but it really is. All the tactics are different. It's all crazy.
I want to know more about this because your story is crazy. We do have to pause for a sponsor segment. So let's take a quick break from today's show to talk about our new sponsor on the podcast. It's the Butcher's Market. Matt, there's a Butcher's Market in your neck of the woods. There's a Butcher's Market in my neck of the woods. And it kind of makes sense for them to join up with what we do because, of course, it's a North Carolina-based company, but more importantly, it's about people. It's about building a culture. You can buy your steaks wherever you want to buy them, but when you know where the sourcing is and you know the person that's handing it to you, they can help you figure out tonight's meal, or they can just help you figure out what you're actually putting into your bodies. That's why the Butcher's Market's here.
Yeah, and they have locations in Holly Springs, they're in Cary, they're in Raleigh, and soon to be in Bedford. And I got to tell you, my kid loves hot dogs, but he loves the Butcher's Market hot dogs. So it's so convenient. Go there, buy a couple of hot dogs. My wife loves the burgers. They're already prepared, already seasoned. All you literally have to do is throw them on the grill, and voila, you have an amazing meal, because you can also buy prepared vegetables too, which are great in season, and you just throw those in the oven for a little while, and you have an awesome meal. You didn't spend a lot of money, and you didn't have to work that hard for it.
That hamburger blend is chuck, ribeye, and a little bit of brisket. It's like an 85%, meaning you get a little bit of fat content, and that's where the flavor is, man. That's where the flavor comes from.
Which one is that called?
That's their Butcher's Blend.
So for those of you that are looking to break into the restaurant industry or kind of pivot from where you've been in the restaurant industry, the Butcher's Market is a great venue for that. It's quality of service, quality of people, plus you get to do both, where you get to learn how to be a butcher, or maybe you already know how to be a butcher, but maybe you've had that kind of feeling that, you know, I'm a front of the house person, and you like and enjoy speaking with people. Well, here you get to speak to people as well, and you get to get excited about the flavors going on in the meats, and get excited about how you prepare it, what sauce you might use, what temperatures you might use. Interaction, quality of life, quality of employment.
So for more information, go to thebutchersmarkets.com. That's butchersmarkets.com. Remember, the Butcher's Markets. They're your neighborhood butcher and specialty grocer, providing our guests with premium meats, local products, and excellent hospitality every day.
You're listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Visit Johnston County. And to learn more, go to johnstoncountync.org. And come explore Joco for yourself.
A mutual friend of ours, Leanne Sullivan, who is the head of the Folks Foundation, she actually was how we got connected. She was having a little bit of Instill rum at your place and texted me, or actually FaceTimed me.
Yeah.
And we just start chatting. She's like, you got to meet my friend Eric.
She's great.
She is awesome. And so she's running Folks Foundation coming out of New Bern. Folks Foundation is a collection of people. They have a journal, they have a membership group, but they are looking to build people that are creators and crafters in the North Carolina region. And they put their money where their mouth is. They support local business as well. And in fact, the recipient of their recent grant this month is Bellator Roasting Company coming out of New Bern. It's a great coffee roasting company. I'm sure they would have shown Matt how to make coffee just a tad bit more conventional, or maybe definitely not as messy.
Definitely
But Bellator is the recipient for a grant this year. And consider you, listeners, a small donation to support the NC makers at Folks Foundation by going to folksfoundation.org. That's folksfoundation.org.
Let's get back to a food and beverage conversation.
Yeah, he's just another typical paratrooper sommelier police officer turned rum maker.
Right. It's pretty much, copacetic.
Basic.
Well, yeah. So Instill, if you were, your calling card is rum.
Yeah.
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 How did that come about? Why rum and why distilling? I mean, like we said, you were really into wine. You had a wine blog. You were in the military. You were then had an illustrious police career, and then you go to making rum.
Well, I think we always joke that the rum is going to one day pay for us to have a vineyard and winery. That's our stepping stone.
Fair enough.
No, we would obviously love to be in the wine. I think the reason why we chose rum was because rum excites me. Everybody's a bourbon guy. Mm-hmm. I'm actually making shirts right now that says I'm not a bourbon guy.
Wow.
It's not that I have anything against bourbon. I drink it.
Yeah.
Love it. But I would never say it's weird. And like 99% of the guys that come to our distillery, that's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. It's like laughable at this point. And other people at the bar have heard my speech 1,000 times and they always laugh. Like everybody feels the need to come in and be like, I'm not really a rum guy. I'm a bourbon guy. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
That's cool. So you don't drink like anything else, mezcal, Cavados, brandy, anything? It's just bourbon. Like no Irish whiskey, no scotch, just bourbon.
Yeah.
Cool. So,
and wait, so are you finding that a lot of people say, just bourbon when you ask that question?
I think that they're like they feel like see, it's all about the presentation. So everybody's in it like happy and cheerful. So they don't really know they're being shamed at that point.
I got you.
Yeah, because I'm a terrible human. So I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm shaming you right now.
We need more shame in this world.
Yeah.
I appreciate
But by the end of that experience,
I'll speak to that. It's just like when I'm out doing tastings and people will be like, "Oh, I don't drink white wine."
Yes. Oh God, I hate when the people say that.
You're literally cutting yourself off from an entire flavor profile and experience.
It gives me a headache. That's the one every time.
Gosh.
Yeah. No, drinking copious amounts of alcohol gives you a headache.
That's right. Without drinking water.
But I feel like, it's because you drink white wine faster because you like it more. That's why you're getting a headache. You just don't want to admit it. But I think like you being a sommelier and me being a certified specialist of wine, our jobs are to educate, not to shame. So when somebody says I'm a bourbon guy, it's my opportunity to educate them.
Sure.
And it's funny because like I'll have this speech and then they'll come back to our distillery, weeks later, hopefully days later, and they'll be like, "Hey, I actually saw this bottle of mezcal that you were talking about, and I picked it up. It's really good. It's really cool. It's got this smoky thing." And now, like, they've kind of broadened their horizon.
Wow,
was that right?
Yeah.
Was that broaden
their horizon?
Those are words in the English language.
Okay, good. I'm nervous now because we had that conversation about like things that aren't right to say.
We told them how to speak, everybody, before he got on the show.
You did. Anyways,
regardless of what you said earlier, tell us what is very unique about this.
So I didn't want to be a bourbon guy getting into this industry, but I've always been fascinated with rum. I think the history of rum. I've got a whole sleeve of tattoos that are pirate related because I was born in St. Augustine, Florida, and so it's a lot of pirate history there.
Nice.
And so rum
and the Hall of Fame of golf, but
the World Golf Hall of Fame, wonderful. I don't golf. My brother does, but anyway. So rum is, you can do so much with rum. You can spice it, you can age it, you can put it in a Hungarian barrel, American barrel, a French barrel. You can put it in a limbic still, a pot still, a column still. You can use all sorts of types of yeasts. You can use charred oak or not charred oak. And with whiskey and bourbon, I think people are always like. They want it to be in that new American oak. They want it to be 51% corn. They want the lineage of what it's supposed to be, right? And I want to be creative and have a good time and not be bound by that. And also, it's just rum is kind of different.
Well, I'll just say that we speak the same language when it comes to rum, and we have been proponents. As a matter of fact, if you look on the back of that cup of coffee you're drinking, you'll see it remembers the pork and rum dinner we did 2 years ago now, and to try to educate people on the application for rum. And we did 5 different rum drinks, I believe, that night.
It was 5 courses with TV's John
Gosh,
May
that's so
and
cool.
Lassiter Distilling out at Piedmont in Durham. And that was fun. And it's so versatile.
Yeah.
For a chef, we basically just asked John to get creative with anything that's rum inspired, and he was like, so I could go Hawaiian, or so I could go Barbados, so I could go tiki, like do whatever. And same with the cocktails. You could do anything, and you could have that just straight, neat, delicious, aged rum, or just dump 19 ingredients into a punch.
Sure.
And both are fantastic.
Fantastic. And I think that's fun too, because people come over to the distillery, and in the wine world, I don't know why this is such a thing, but people love to say, I don't drink sweet wine.
Right.
Like they love to start off with that. They've never really had sweet wine.
Right.
It's
or
something
sweet wine that's actually good.
Good, right.
Yeah.
It's just something that they've heard for a long time.
Yeah.
And so when they bring that same attitude to our cocktail bar, and they're like, oh, what do you have on here that's not sweet? And I want to say that, like, I am a big proponent of there's a time and place for all wines. Everything.
Totally.
And so whatever the day is like, if it's a nice sunny day and it's not really cold, I want people to drink painkillers. I want them to drink the rum punches because it's so refreshing and fun, right? It's a simple cocktail, and they're easy, and everybody can do it in their kitchen. And I try to convince them to do that. And now, like, if it's dark and cold, we actually make a caipirinha with our rum, even though, that rum
It's not cachaça.
It's not cachaça. But, when people try the caipirinha with our rum, they're like, whoa, this is really cool, So,
And also a proponent of all wines, I'm glad you said that, is Trying a Wine Company, who's another great friend of our show.
Cool.
And they have 4 locations. They have one in Holly Springs, their flagship in Cary. They have one in Morrisville. They have one down in Southern Pines if you want to go play golf and drink some great wine. And also, they are such good friends of ours that if you use the NCFB promo code, you will get a discount within their stores. They have all types of wine from all over the world. And I'm sure they have some great mixers to pair with your rum, whether you want to make some sort of caipirinha or how about rum Manhattan of sorts, or a classic daiquiri, if I may. But go to tryingawineco.com, and they will also deliver and use the NCFB promo code.
Yeah.
And I love those guys. They have been with me since the beginning. I knew them at Total Wine.
That's right, because Chris and Glenn are both graduates of.
And when I was doing my wine website, they were such a huge help with that. And so those guys have always been close to my heart on my wine journey. So I really, when I was studying for the CSW, those guys were on it with me and helping me. And
that's danzyreviews.com.
Yeah, it's not. I haven't updated it in years, but it was a fun go at it, man. I had a great time doing that, and it was something I did on the side of being a cop, because when you're a cop, I liked being a cop and I enjoyed it, but man, I really wanted to be in this industry, and I wanted to be where you guys are at, where you get to try food and beverage and people are happy to be around you. And so that was like my escape
life
from being
or death,
a cop. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Can let's ask a question, because I've just always been curious about that. In your brain, because you, like, as a police officer, when you woke up and you're getting ready and you're shaving and you're putting your suit on and doing all that, were you conscious of the risk factor and the
always,
were you
man? It's hard to
possibly
leave.
scared daily?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, like, when, like, my 3-year-old one time, I had 3 kids, and the one that was 3 ran outside one day and he just said, "Dad, please don't die tonight." And I'm like, where do you learn that? I don't know where he learned that, but I remember that
on
night.
the news every single day.
Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
3-year-old, it seems to be coming into their
dude, he could barely
purview
talk.
at 3.
He could barely talk, and that's what he was saying. And, like, I remember praying, like, my whole way to work, like, God, please don't let this be the night. Like,
right.
I feel like maybe I should call in sick right now.
Like,
but
he was he
don't
prophetic?
Like, please do not let this happen. Like, it all must me. But I broke my leg fighting a murder suspect on Pool Road. It was actually, thank God, ended up being an attempted murder because no one died. There was 3 people that were at risk of dying under his hands, and all 3 of them survived. But I broke my leg in 5 places fighting him.
Ugh.
I also broke my arm and shattered my tooth fighting another guy. And I don't know that there was a night that went by as a cop that I didn't pull my gun out at least once. But I worked, in the worst district.
Wait, you're saying you did pull your gun out pretty often?
Almost every day.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
serving
it was that...
warrants and chasing people. And so it was very fast paced. I mean, I would probably worked a stabbing and a shooting at least every week. Tied tourniquets around people. I've watched many people take their last breath. It's just part of the game. So, yeah, I think you always think about it. And when you get ready in the morning, that's the first thing that goes through your head, like, is today. Like, don't let that be today. And, Ainsworth got shot in the face here recently. Yeah. One of our SWAT team guys had gotten shot, and my best friend ended up gotten in a shooting here and had to take somebody's life. Another one of my close friends on his last day as a Raleigh cop was supposed to be turning in his gear and decided because they were so short-handed he would work till noon. And at 10:30 in the morning, we heard over the radio that he was screaming for help. And I had driven. I was at the range in Clayton. But he got in a foot chase and he'd gotten shot. The guy turned around and shot him. This was just a couple of years ago. And so he, thank God.
That literally was the plot of Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, on his last day, yeah.
Which was like a joke back then, but that shit is really happening. I don't mean to make light at all.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
saying,
I mean, I make fun of him for getting shot.
No, I'm just
kidding.
like that's real. So what about the parallel? And I know this doesn't have a lot to do with food and beverage, but hopefully listeners are listening like, yeah, this is interesting. I want to know. Because I want to know.
Sure.
But the parallel or the difference between being a paratrooper, like a madman jumping out of planes into potentially hostile environments, versus just driving around in the city that you grew up in or lived in for whatever. Where was like the terror level between the both of them, and would you say one was worse than the other?
Being a cop was worse because you're by yourself. Being a paratrooper, it's kind of like that mentality where you're like, I've got all my friends, we got a lot of guns, we got a lot of bullets, we own this. So like when I was, 20 years old when I was in Afghanistan, 2005 is when I was there. Yeah. But I never felt like afraid there. I always felt like we were the big boy in town. Like, come on, I dare you to mess with me and my friends. As a cop, you're by yourself. And so if a guy your size is all hyped up on something and I'm talking to you, it's like, oh no. It's a very humbling experience because I don't have any friends to help me. It's just me and you. And so it's a,
hence why you're pulling your gun out pretty often.
Sure, or your pepper spray or something like that. I mean, I've had some really big guys come after me, and I'm not afraid to say it. I've ran away. I've ran away several times from guys that I'm like, nope, I know my limits, and that guy is going to hurt me, and I'm just going to back off. Yeah. And I've had a dude chase me around a car like a cartoon until backup came. Like we literally he was on one side of the car, I was on the other side, and he just chased me back and forth. I was like, I can't fight that guy. He's
every
huge.
now and you'll see like, a few officers or a few squad cars, all, like 6 cars.
Sure.
For one car you'll see and you go like, all right, isn't that a little overkill?
Yeah.
But then if you think
It's really
about it,
not.
it's like, no, because the guy's probably armed. The guy's probably has a
and you don't know,
record of
and you don't
what
know how
he's
many
done.
people are in that car either. I mean,
Right.
if there's 4 people in that car, we like to have 1 or 2 cops more than there are in the car. So if there's 2 people in the car, we really want to have 3 or 4 cops there. And that
So
way,
it's
2
not-
can tackle 1. And
I guess I always thought that you guys were partners, like
No.
you'd have a partner.
because they say that breeds corruption when you're with somebody for 12 hours, that you're more likely to be a corrupted cop. So they keep you by yourself.
Wow.
At least that's Raleigh's theory.
Huh.
LAPD
Handmaid's
does
Tale,
not
they
do
have
that,
the 2 ladies walking to each other because they're each other's spy. Like,
Yeah.
looking out on them so that they don't make any mistakes.
So, yeah, and being a cop is a lot of fun, and and that's I think why wine was so important to me, is that escape when it's all over, and wine is like being a detective, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to deductively figure out what you're doing and what this wine is all about, and then you have to make a judgment.
Yeah.
So it's being a wine guy is kind of like being a detective. It's kind of fun.
It's definitely like being a detective. I don't know about a police officer on a daily beat, but yeah.
Wine will destroy you.
So, okay, let's get into some rum. So you just mentioned a litany of ways that you could produce rum.
Sure.
So how is Instill Distilling producing rum?
Very good.
It's producing it good.
No, I'm just kidding. We do it really well.
It's very well, actually.
Yeah, very well. No, we want a traditional rum with flavor. And I talk about the beer scene a lot when I mention this. If 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you were to go to a restaurant and you were to look at the bar tabs, the taps would be Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, and then maybe Sam Adams or maybe a Sierra Nevada. If you go and look at them now, it'll be like Double Barley, Deep River, Sam Adams, and then maybe one Bud Light or maybe a Coors Light. So it's completely changed. And when people go to a restaurant, they're more likely to try a craft beer because it looks cool. Now you've got all these taps of different things. You're like, maybe I'm going to try something. And 10 years ago, those people that were all stuck on the Budweisers, the Bud Lights, the Natural Lights, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those. I drink them during baseball games. Sure. I just feel it's American to do so. But back in the day,
I don't think you also have another choice at baseball games often.
You do now? It's crazy.
I mean,
if you go to Buddy's baseball stadium or
Buddy Bangle,
or if you go to the Durham Bulls,
you get craft beer there.
Great craft beer.
Yeah. Foothills is all over the place over there. So people are like 10 years ago they would say, "Oh, this beer is bitter. I'm going to drink Budweiser," and now it's like, the more bitter, the better, right? But I think the spirits industry is where beer was 10 years ago. And if you look at a restaurant shelf, it's going to be all of the big brands and no craft. maybe 1 or 2 craft. But the majority is going to be like you'll have 1 craft rum next to like 6 different big brand rums. And so nobody really wants to try the craft rum because there's not a big selection. And I feel like when the time comes that a restaurant has like 8 different craft spirits right up front, then people are going to be like, what's going on here? I'm going to try something new today.
Yeah.
We just haven't gotten to that point yet. And also, when people try craft spirits, they like the big beer brands. The big spirits brands don't have any flavor. Everything is distilled to neutral.
Right.
And so everybody thinks that something's supposed to be neutral. And so when they have a flavor and they don't understand that flavor, they don't understand that it's supposed to taste a little bit like molasses or it's supposed to taste a little bit like cane sugar or cane juice or whatever. They're like, it's moonshiny. Because they taste something there and they don't know what it is. And it's like when people try old world wines, right? They don't like it because they don't understand what the taste is. When they taste a California wine, they know blackberry, they know strawberry, but they don't know funk from the Rhone Valley. You know, they don't know this horsehair crazy stuff. So they automatically don't like it until you educate them.
Right.
And that's what we try to do with our rum. Our rum is all about flavor and we want it to be complex and we want it to be balanced. And so for like our spice rum, our goal there was not to make a vanilla bomb, not to make a fireball cinnamon bomb, but to try to find that perfect balance. Did we nail it? No. Did it sell off the shelves and run out way faster than we thought it would? Absolutely yes. But I always say I'm not worried about brand consistency at this point. I'm more worried about like getting it right. And I think it would be egotistical and unreasonable to say we knocked it out of the park on our first try. And so I would say when I taste my spice rum that it's too cinnamon forward still, even though that was our main goal was not to make it that. And we didn't put enough vanilla in it. And so right now we're changing things up. We did hire a master distiller. His name is Jude and he's amazing. He was from American Brewmaster. And we're trying some new stuff with jaggery, which is a freeze-dried cane juice from India. Wow. And because I really like rum agricoles.
Oh,
but they're unreasonable to make here in North Carolina. You would not be able to afford to make a rum agricole this far north.
Fair Game makes one.
Sure.
Well, they
Sure,
made a very small batch, and it was a rare thing. It's
and
not
I'm
a
sure it would be
consistent
very
level.
expensive. I don't know how much their bottles are, but I would imagine it'd have to be a hefty price.
They were selling the 375 mini bottles for the same price as a full size. So it was double the price.
So just to be fair,
sure.
I think there's a plantation in South Carolina, if I remember correctly, that is doing pure sugarcane juice.
I think the furthest north is Richland, Georgia.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Okay.
Maybe there's one in South Carolina. As far as I know, Richland, Georgia was and there's Richland rum, which is my favorite domestic rum on the planet.
From Richland, Georgia.
From Richland, Georgia. But they don't even make a rum agricole.
Okay.
They
and for those of you listening, rum agricole is something that is made from pure sugarcane juice,
right?
100%, as opposed to something that is made with molasses or
white cane sugar.
Yeah, and you'll find these rums in AOC, an appellation d'origine control, in some of the French islands.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And they're really expensive, but they're really good.
Yeah.
And so
it's a different idea for rum because it's like clean and pure.
Yeah. And you get this like grassy thing going on that's pretty cool.
So
and
they're
fun
making
to talk about.
the base spirit yourself? Or?
Yeah, of course. We do everything from start to finish.
Yeah, I guess with rum, that's kind of almost like that's the way you do it.
No,
right?
no, people are buying it from.
Buy base spirit. Yeah,
they do buy. I forgot the name of that company that everybody buys from.
That's a good thing.
Which ticks me off, though, when people do that and they call themselves a craft distillery. I just don't think you should not be able to call yourself craft. If you're buying spirits from outside.
I guess that is a controversial conversation because I do know if you take a base spirit, but then you put your spin on it and you make it uniquely
but then they call
different.
it handcrafted and they start throwing out all the regular terminology and it's offensive to me because I'm like, no, you're not handcrafting that. Somebody else made it and you put it in a
here's a controversial question for you. So do you not consider Durham Distillery then handcrafted?
I'm not going to talk about any other distilleries at all because one, I respect what everybody's doing and I'm not saying that anything is easier or harder. The rules, like with wine, like, you know how, like with wine, you can't, like when California was calling everything Burgundy.
Yeah.
Right? That's not Burgundy.
Sure.
But you know what? Captain Morgan's does it. Like, if you look at the back of their, like, Caribbean rum, it'll say, like, handcrafted, specially selected reserve rum from the Caribbean. They make 300,000 bottles a day.
Yeah.
I'm perplexed. Where's the handcraft come from?
Right.
Was perplexed a good word?
Yeah.
That was a good word. That was good.
Yeah. Let's crack these bottles. Let's give us.
Gosh.
Yeah, let's see what we're going to be drinking.
Yeah, where is your sugar or molasses or stuff coming from?
Right now we're working a lot with jaggery, and none of this has jaggery in it. we're kind of experimenting on that. So this is going to be molasses and white cane sugar based. This is the same base as our white rum, except I've double distilled this.
When you say this, you're talking about the spice rum.
The spice rum. I'm sorry, your listeners can't see. So the spice rum, we distilled it to neutral because we wanted the spices to be the star of the show. Our white rum is a one-time run, very slow ran, with the emphasis on wanting to capture the essence of the molasses and the ingredients and how we did it. We didn't want it to be offensively molassesy, but we also respect that it's supposed to taste like molasses because that's what it's made with.
Sure.
So we don't want to distill this thing to neutral. So I think when you taste our white rum here that I'm pouring for you, you will notice that there are notes of molasses. Some people will call it toffee. Some people say caramel. And some people say tequila.
And what type of still?
I do use a column still. It's it's a hybrid still, though. We can take the plates out, and it will become a pot still. But we run it in such a way with very little reflux. But we do need to clean up some of the molasses because 50% of the nation likes molasses, and the other 50% absolutely hates molasses. Right. So we don't want to take a 50-50 shot on you like in our rum.
So just to clarify, when you say that you have a column still, so how many plates are in it?
5. We use 5 plates.
So you do a one-time distillation, but it goes through 5 plates.
5 plates. And so, we're not the most efficient distillers. We run it through those 5 plates with very little reflux, but we run it for like a 14-hour day. Like we're not pushing this stuff through the still in 8 hours. We're pushing it through in 14 hours. That's a very slow run, low and slow. But we're also running it with only 5 plates and little reflux because, again, we're not trying to strip this thing down. Right. We're not trying to make what I call bad vodka. Yeah. I love good vodka, but rum can never be good vodka. It can only be bad vodka. It can be neutral. It can be colorless, odorless, and tasteless, but damn, it'll burn like hell when you get it down like that. And so that's not what we want.
Yeah, when you're distilling, you want to leave some of the essence of the raw product, raw material, so that there's some flavor. You don't want to pull it out so strip it down to nothing.
Right. And we don't want to burn the molasses because burnt molasses, you burn a batch and it's like burnt popcorn. It's terrible.
Just say right off the bat that smells like really good rum just to start. This is just a blanket.
This is the ASMR version of the show where we sip, drink, and everyone cringes when they hear our lips smacking.
Oh, man, I love that. Biased.
Oh, wow. That does not burn. That is... Woo.
That's tasty.
Gosh, there's a lot of flavor going on.
Yeah,
there.
And
you get the banana note. You got
a little coconut. Yep. But in a really good way, not in a I don't like sweet way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It has character.
It's 80 proof, and the finish is so long. Like it should still be on your breath. Like you should still be able to.
Like
feel it in the
if
middle
a
of your
police officer pulled me over right now, they would ask me to get out of the car.
Yeah. With your hands up. But yeah, so
wow.
And that's really what we were going for. It took us a long time to get there, and all of our predecessors told us if you're gonna make white rum, make it fast, make it cheap. Nobody drinks white rum straight, except alcoholics, and they don't give a shit what it tastes like anyway. So just push it through your still and work on the other stuff. I don't buy that on, and my team, my 2 partners, Tom and Lee, these guys. At the top of their fields. Tom is one of the best lawyers.
Tommy Lee? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, Tommy Lee. And Lee is one of the, more elite operators that you'll ever, if you ever do get to meet him, you'll probably never meet somebody with as much combat experience as he has. I think he has like 12 combat deployments, 14 combat deployments, something like that. And so we are gluttons for punishment, and we like to do things the hard way. And so, like I said, not efficient. And we're not afraid to pour something out. We're not afraid to say it sucks. Like we don't have egos at this point. Everybody has seen us at our worst and at our lowest in our careers, so we don't care. If it sucks, we're like, man, that sucks. Let's try it again. That's where we're at on this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that being a small distiller, you're going to change your recipes. You're going to try to craft it to be better. Now, in the beginning, you're not going to spend all this money on raw material and just throw it all away.
Sure.
You're like, no, we made a good product. We can sell this.
Yep.
Our first products,
we didn't. We dumped our first.
Okay.
We dumped. Man, some of our ferments, we dumped like 275 gallons at a time of the ferment. Like we'd ferment it out, and just smelling the fermentation, we're like, nah, no, that's not going to be good in this still.
Yeah.
And like you're tempted to do it, but like time is money, and so you're like, no, let's just scratch that. Let's start this over. Trying different yeast strands and things like that. And And mainly, I didn't want to do the paperwork of running it through the still. So I'm like, you know what? If we run it through the still, then we got to do all the paperwork, then we got to do all the destruction. Like, we know we know already that's going to burn.
Right.
You can just tell. And that's why our fermentations are very low in alcohol content. Like, we're really just making beer and then we're distilling it. We're not trying to get, I guess, bang for buck. You know, like a lot of people try to ferment up to like 20 proof or 20% alcohol. Sorry. They try to get up to 20% alcohol and they use champagne yeast and they're trying to get it done in 3 or 4 days because you're just going to put it in the still. And it doesn't matter. And we're going to distill it to neutral. So nobody's going to know. But we're not doing it that way. So our fermentation has to be on point. And I have found, and we argue about it all the time, but, you know, we've pushed it as high as 13%, but I like it to be between 7 and 10%. And that's not a efficient way to run your operation. But I believe in taste first. And we got into this because we're nerds and we're wine nerds. And we're trying to make the best, not the most efficient product.
And I'll just validate that saying, I mean, as we talked about, not blowing smoke, but this is a rum that has loads of character. It doesn't taste like your
You could drink this white rum on the rocks with a squeeze of lime.
Yeah.
And
be
it's
happy.
delicious.
Yeah.
And it's white rum. And if you were to close your eyes, you would not know that this was white rum.
Right. It has a lot of character to it, which you think needs to be aged in oak or something like that. You know, just to give a shout out to Johnston County, we said it at the beginning that you're in Clayton, but we've been doing some features on Johnston County. We would have featured you no matter where you were, but the fact of the matter is you're just a little south of Raleigh by, 30 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yep.
You're regionally close, and there's so much cool stuff happening, especially just in Clayton, if you want to just take that out. We had Revival 1869 to kind of kick off our whole JoCo related shows, and
what an amazing place that is.
It's awesome.
Gosh, man.
You guys are a walk away from there. You're like 2-3 blocks from there?
Yeah.
On the same road,
I love
just
that
down
place.
the street.
We actually say in our tours, if you want a nice cocktail experience, go to Revival. We're a distillery, not a bar. We make cocktails that show you what you can do at your own house. I treat it like our kitchen.
Yeah.
So if you're expecting a really nice cocktail experience, you're not going to find it at our distillery. You need to walk down the block to Revival because that place is, his attention to detail, his staff, the way they run that company, superb.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They are awesome. So, okay, well, that begs the question with the whole recent allowment now of distillers being able to sell their wares at their locations, both full bottle, but then also a drink. Are you making cocktails at your place?
Yes. Yeah, we do. And I treat it like my kitchen, man. And it's really entertaining. We have a great time. I think the people there, they laugh. I make fun of myself.
Yeah.
I spill things. I break things. I don't shake with the cocktail thing. Like it's not fancy, but it is very entertaining. And really, our emphasis is making really good cocktails. I switch my menu up every 2 weeks. I make all my cocktails in front of you. And I talk through it. And I mean, we'll have 100 people in there all gathering around to watch me make one cocktail. And we walk you through it, Big Bird to Cookie Monster style, so that we want you to buy a bottle of rum and go home and make your own cocktails. So if we're throwing like all these different kinds of bitters and egg whites and doing all this crazy stuff, like if you want that, go to Revival and get that.
Yeah, you're going to feel
intimidated.
intimidated.
You don't need to do that at home. Go have somebody do it for you.
Yeah.
At Revival. But if you want to make cocktails at home and have a beach party in your backyard in Claytona Beach,
Hashtag Claytona.
so we put our recipes, little neck hangers with different recipes on each of our bottles.
Wow. Okay, I'm having the spiced rum right now.
Okay.
And spiced flavored rum. That's what you have to.
That's what they have. That's what you have to label it now.
Yeah.
Even though it's just rum. And the cool thing about our spices is it took us 1.5 years to get our cinnamon, but we're using Ceylon cinnamon, Clone 5 Ceylon cinnamon. It's like one of the oldest surviving cinnamon clones in existence and one of the highest rated cinnamons. And it took us like 1.5 years to try to get this. Like I had a friend go to Sri Lanka to go and talk to these guys to see how could we get it in the United States. We ended up getting it through a spicing company out of New Jersey. But that was going to be the highlight of this. But again, I did not want it to be cinnamon heavy.
No.
But because nobody's ever used the cinnamon, it's cinnamon heavy.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, all my bros out there that love their Fireball shots, and believe me, there are so many people out there that love that. This is the sophisticated entry right here. This is like, yes, I like cinnamon, I like flavor, but I also respect myself. So I want to drink something of quality. This is delicious. And yeah, you could just drink this. You could shoot this. I know you said you're not a shooter guy, but
I say that, but man,
you could shoot.
You could. And people do buy shots at our so we don't frown on that. we're just not just the way our brand works is we're just not a party brand.
Yeah.
That's a big part of the category, like the spirit category. Everyone's trying to jump into that. What could be like Fireball? And
I'm going to say something, and this is going to be controversial, but I just want to validate that when I say I really like something, I really like something, because I'm going to say I heavily prefer the white rum.
Yeah.
Because that to me feels like authentic. It feels like character driven.
Right.
It feels like you guys wanted to make the best possible white rum. This to me, honestly, it feels like something of more
Generic.
of trying to hit a mark, trying to go up against.
We were and I think like when we distilled everything to neutral to make the spirits, the thing is where we went wrong on that.
So is that going to change in future recipes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But you know what? Everybody loved our spiced rum, man. And you know, I've had people beg, don't change your recipe. But we are going to change it.
Yeah.
Because
You got to be authentic.
As a taster and somebody who loves to taste things, I want more complexity than what's in that glass. Right off the bat, you're just going to say cinnamon. And my goal was to have you not say vanilla, because I feel like every rum out on the market right now, that's the first thing.
It's not very vanilla. It's cinnamon.
Yeah,
forward.
and it's way cinnamon forward. And so we're going to tone down the cinnamon. We're going to bring up the vanilla. We're not going to double distill to neutral, but we've added this jaggery essence, so we don't have to distill to neutral, because the jaggery is almost more neutral in itself. Like, it's not neutral, but it's not as pungent as the molasses.
Okay.
And so when we were distilling just one single runs with the white rum and then trying to spice it, we were competing with the molasses. And it was I wasn't really getting the characteristics I like there either. That's why we double distilled to neutral.
And then are you taking the white rum and doing some aging on it? Are you going to?
Yeah, we're trying to put it into some beer barrels right now.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so Deep River just had their release of their collab. It's this weekend. Collaboration without representation. It's a really great beer. It's one of my faves. And so we're going to put our white rum in one of those barrels and kind of let it sit till November and see how that turns out. So it'll be a white rum aged in a bourbon barrel coffee chocolate stout beer barrel.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
And these are your two main products that
Right
are
now,
out there,
yeah.
And is there plans to do more?
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
But are you going to
We're
keep
gonna push it?
Are you going to keep it to just rum?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. Well, you know, I hate saying yes, but
you never
we would like to be masters at something.
Bourbon? You can make some bourbon.
Everybody says, when's your
I'm a
bourbon?
bourbon
When's your
guy.
bourbon coming out? And I think when we first started in this, like we got ahead of ourselves, and we were like, yeah, we're going to make this, we're going to make that. We really wanted to make grappa because it's a wine-based spirit, and we really want to do that. And so I will say that we probably will come out with
Community's
a
been
grappa.
begging for grappa.
Yeah, everybody wants a grappa. No, says no one ever. Yeah, everybody's like, what is grappa?
When I come to Raleigh, I'm like, where's all the grappa?
Where's all the grappa? There's not a big market for grappa, but we'd like to make it just because it's so hard and difficult to make.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about these labels.
Let's
because
do it.
These
I love
labels
that.
are unique.
Yes.
Just unique.
Do you don't like them?
They're not very. No,
I'm kidding. You cannot
not
like
the
them.
very new. So for the listener, I'm looking at a label that just says Instill Distilling Co. on the top, white rum on the bottom, or spice flavored rum on the bottom, and inside it is a picture. It's a hand drawn picture of two lovely women. Well, one on each label. These women. This is not your wife.
No.
Who are these women, and what's going on here?
Let's, because I just went to an ABC store the other day, and they said, that our product's moving really well, and that made me feel good. And one guy said, yeah, but you need to work on your labels because every person comes in here and says, what's the story about this? And he said,
that's a good
thing.
thing.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Because that means they're looking at our label, and our labels are beautiful. And our artist is Bruce Corona, and these are hand painted, and we actually have the originals in the distillery, but they are. And so I listened to your last episode, all about women, right?
Yeah.
I want to say right now that is not where we're going with this. However, I did respect that episode.
Sure.
But that's not kind of what we were thinking, but we're kind of on the same lines. We felt that...
Is that to say that you're just
women
trying
in
to
their place?
capture people and it happen to be women, like in the future?
No, but we're not. So the way I explain it is that we're three men that built this place from the ground up, and our wives really took the hit from it. Like, what do you mean you're taking your life savings and building a distillery in Clayton, North Carolina? And so while we were doing this, our wives, we were getting home, we were working full-time jobs, getting home at like 1 a.m, getting up at 5 a.m, going back to your full-time jobs, going straight there to go lay bricks in the distillery. And so while we were doing this, we were trying to figure out what do we want to do label-wise. We knew we wanted it to be artsy because we're wine guys, and wine shops are very artsy. A spirit liquor store is very fontsy. It's just fonts everywhere. Yeah. No art. So we wanted it to look artistic, and we were like, well, what are we going to paint? What are we going to have painted on these things? And so we started writing down who we were as people: friendly, violent, rugged, refined, blue collar, but we like white collar amenities. And then jokingly, one of us said, boy, it sounds a lot like a lady. And we said, dude, that's it. Like, nobody works harder than a true lady. A true lady gets up first. She goes to bed last. She takes care of all the stuff that we as men don't want to or can take care of. And so we were like, that is a great symbol of hard work. Is what is a true lady. And so we sought out to do this competition called Portrait of a True Lady. And we got like 88 or 89 pieces of work, submissions from all around the United States, and they were all very true beauty, if you know what I mean. Like
he's
big
motioning
boobs,
to big bosoms, yes.
right? Like some guy sent
They
in,
missed the point.
yeah, and some guy sent in like a mermaid with like huge seashell knockers and everything, and I was like, what is blue collar about that? Well, maybe she's blue collar to get those big giant seashells, but that painting that you see on our white rum.
I think generically, though, if you read an article or read a request from a distillery that looks like they want the true idea of a woman, you're gonna get a bunch of guys that do the Marilyn Monroe, right? But even the girls, even the girls were submitting these like crazy, Marilyn Monroe, like, we had a lot of women submission. But even the women were like, one girl painted a thing of this woman coming out of the water with a thong on, and it's just like her going into the water, so it's all you see is her booty with the thong, and it's a beautiful sunset, and that was her rendition of true beauty. And I get it, art is in the eye of
the beholder.
The beholder.
The body is a beautiful thing too. But aside from what you're trying to say,
that's not what we were going for. We were going for like.
Incidentally, that will be coming out on the aged rum.
Right,
but that's
the bourbon booty.
Yeah, it's the bourbon booty. No. But when we saw this painting, that was the first painting that you were like, whoa. Because it's true beauty, though, and if you really look at it subjectively or objectively, like that, like what could you say that wouldn't be mean, that wouldn't be nice about that? You know what I mean? And you could have a lot of different judgments on that painting, but that is a woman without makeup. Her hair is in disarray because she's been working all day. She's got the scarf around her neck, and that's a real human being. Her name is Marissa Best. She's working to become Dr. Surgeon Best, and she's a true lady, and she's gorgeous. And the artist Bruce Corona, who follow him on Instagram, guys. This guy is nuts. Iraq veteran, Afghanistan veteran, quiet, humble, wonderful artist. And Bruce had snapped a picture of her walking out the door doing her residency nursing stuff. And he painted this, and he said he was going to submit it. And she was like, don't you dare. Like, I didn't have any makeup on. My hair's all messed up. And he was like, well, no, the whole contest is for true beauty. And when we saw that painting, I knew right away when I got that submission out of all the other ones, that was the one I knew. And like when I was showing it to other people, they were like, really? That's going to be on your label? And I said, absolutely. And like, my two partners, like they were in on it because they knew the vision. Yeah. So Lee and Tom were like, bro, like there's nothing we can say about that. Like mean. Like that.
I have to say I love it. And it's funny. We'll talk about this off mic, but I was at the Scott Avett Invisible thing, and it's very lifelike, conversation starting, kind of neo-impressionism.
Well, let people know that Scott Avett is also an artist of the Avett Brothers, and he has
of the Avett
exhibit
Brothers
going on at the North Carolina Museum of Art.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. And our second lady, so she's a woman of color. She's from New York, but she's got some South American, and she's beautiful, man. We know her. Her name is Elizabeth McCullough. She's a makeup artist, and she's been a blogger for many years now, probably 4 or 5 years. She's been blogging about makeup. She does She does a lot of makeup for like North Carolina pageants, the Miss North Carolina stuff. But she, on her blog, she talks just as much about the importance of not wearing makeup as she does as wearing makeup. And I've always thought that was very cool, and that's why I've followed her blog, even though I don't wear makeup. I mean, it's hard to believe that I don't wear makeup.
You should.
I should.
You got an oily T-zone.
Yeah. So I'm sweating in this hoodie too. But my mascara would be running right now. But anyway, I've just, she's a great mother. She's a great wife to her husband, and she's just this hardworking. And I followed her blog because I love real bloggers, like that people that just are really, really into what they're actually doing. And so I've always been inspired by her. And when she said that she would do this label, she would be the model, I was blown away. But she lives in Clayton, North Carolina. And, it's just funny because she's spicy and she's on the spiced rum and our white lady's on the white rum. And so a lot of people say, like, that seems a little racist. We don't play political correct games. We're not in here to be malicious or anything. We're real guys.
Let's be honest, it would be confusing if you flipped it.
And so
I just be like, wait, which one's the
if you want to think that that's racist, well, then I feel sorry for you and that you think way too much about life.
Yeah, exactly.
We did not put that much thought into this.
You're a little bit oversensitive, I would say.
Yep.
Too woke for this bloke.
Yeah, you're too woke.
That was my
and we're not we're not feminists, but we respect women. Yeah. We respect the hell out of them, and it's
not what you would think. I mean, you really just kind of went out of left field with labels. You're like, fuck it, we're just going to do what makes us happy and what looks real. And
that's what
I
our whole
applaud you for
distillery is
that.
about. That's our whole that is what we are as human beings, man. Like, we have game days in our distillery where these nerds come in and they set up these crazy wild games where they build ships. They build ships and they have these characters and they're like 12-hour long games, and we love that. And they're like, you know, when they come in there, we got one on February 1st coming up. I think they're playing a game called like Warhammer or something. But these dudes are so thankful, and they were like, "You really just gonna let us use this space to play games?" And like, he's like, some people, like, I mean, this is, yeah. We're like, yes,
I get
we
pushed in
love
a
that.
locker for this.
Yeah, we love that, man. Like, we respect the hell out of that. And we've got veterans that come in and do movie nights, and they put, you know, these crazy war movies on the back thing. And then we also have golfers, and we don't talk the talk about being open to everyone. Like, we literally walk the walk. Like, come into our distillery at any given time, and I will entertain every single person in there. Like, it doesn't matter if you're old, young. You know, Tom, if you see my business partner, Tom is a lawyer, and he's an older guy. But Tom and I banter just the same way as I would with you guys. And Lee is the same way. Lee is a very quiet. And, you know, our wives are always in there. Our kids are always in there. We're very kid-friendly. We're pet-friendly. As long as you have the values that we carry, which is hard work and family first. And if you're coming in acting a fool, I'll put you in your place and just say, look, man, dude, calm it down a little bit. You're getting a little bit too lit tonight or something like that, because that's not what we're about. We're trying to instill some good values. Once you have a good time, I want you to be in, but I will pay for your Uber. If you come into my place and you're getting lit and you're having a good time, respectfully, I'll let you do it.
Back to Holly Springs?
I'll let you do it, baby. Yeah. Well, we're not afraid. I'll drive you myself. It's Holly Springs.
If I come into your distillery,
I'm driving you
drink
personally.
myself too much and make an ass, you'll pay for my Uber?
I'll
Okay,
drive
done.
you. I will be your Uber.
Only
in that
Matt,
case.
though. Well, I mean, getting to know you in this podcast, it's kind of like you're kind of the embodiment, and I'm sure your counterparts as well, your co-owners are like that. There's a lot to you, man. I mean, the fact that you were military and paratrooper and all, and CSW, certified and specialist of wine, and then start doing distilling, and also just having this like awareness of the society we live in. I really appreciate, because I could easily have put you in a box and been like, oh, he's just a jarhead that became a cop and now he wants to make booze.
Right.
And like, you could say that from the outside looking in. Maybe you still are, but who knows? No. Yeah. But there's a lot to you. You're a three-dimensional person, and there's a lot to everybody. But I think we oversimplify everything to make it easier for us to understand. But I like that you're kind of breaking that convention. And you're like, no, just get to know the story, get to know the people, and you can do that at your distillery. It sounds like a commercial now, but you could go to Clayton, you can go go to Johnston County.
Soon to be under the NC F&B umbrella, the Eric Tansey Jughead podcast coming to you soon.
Yes. But you know, and I really learned a lot of who I am through being a police officer, because I get to meet interesting people all day long. And it's easy, like you said, to judge them and put them into a box. Yeah. But once you learn their stories, and you know, just a simple crackhead, which, by the way, crackhead is an offensive term now. I'm not allowed to use it.
Sorry,
but I'm not a cop anymore, so I don't care. But even a crackhead has an amazing story. And
we're going to lose all our crackhead listenership now.
Yeah, it sucks. But, you know, they still have a story. And when you learn that story, then you learn how to police them. And so instead of judging them and trying to figure out, now you know why they're where they're at. And so now you can start trying to work on solutions to, you know, obviously you have to still enforce the law, but how do we do it where they're not going to hate you at the end of the day? Right. And so, you know, the crackheads, and I'll still call them that, I still know them by name, and I can still drive down the street right now in my personal car and wave to them. But instead of arresting them and things like that, I was able to, you know, have them pick up trash in lieu of going to jail or getting a citation. And so when you're not pissing them off, but you're still enforcing the rules, now you have friendships and they trust in the community, which is kind of what community policing is supposed to be about. For some reason, the higher management and policing thinks that community policing is just an open hand of kindness all the time. No, you're open hand of kindness when you can be, and then when you have to close that to an iron fist, go for it.
I witnessed some of our Raleigh Police Department out front of our office right here on Fayetteville Street do something that I thought was pretty charming and I don't know, it felt more human than normal. I was parking, and when I was going to park, I looked and I saw a police officer get out of his car, and there were 3 older men that probably don't have a home that were sitting there just in front of the building. And he sees them, and he walks up, and I've got my window down, I'm listening. He goes, "Fellas, I saw that your friend told you I was headed your way for you to hide all the booze and you just put it underneath your chair. That's a really lazy excuse. And I'm just like, what is going to happen here? I'm just fly on the wall. And they're like, and he goes, so look, I could just arrest you or give you some tickets for all this stuff. He goes, why didn't you just listen to your buddy who's trying to help you out? He said this, and you looked at him, and you waved him off like, ah.
Yeah.
Like that. He goes, so I'm telling you, your friend is a real friend who is trying to help you, and right now I'm going to be your friend. Throw that crap away.
Yeah.
And don't let me come back here ever again and get you. And they were like, oh, he's like, you got me? They're like, yeah, we got you. He's like, are we cool? And they're like, yeah. He's like, because I want to come back here. I like you guys.
Yep.
And I don't want this. And they're like, yeah. And that was it. And he walked away, and the guys threw it away. Now, they'll probably pull out the second bottle of whatever.
Right. And then the next guy that's parked there is going to see this cop arrest them for the booze. And then he's going to be like, man, those dickhead cops arrested this guy just drinking. But they don't understand that cop just gave him. And man, the Raleigh PD, the guys that serve under there, man, are the best. Like, I think Raleigh officers truly are some of the best street level cops that you would find in the country.
Coming from Los Angeles, and I don't know if you could speak to it, Matt, coming from New York, but the police officers in Los Angeles were never cool.
Dicks.
Sure.
Like, ever. Like I would never want to even be near someone. If I found out that a guy was a cop off duty, like, it just felt awkward. And I felt like the off-duty cops were dicks in general. Like, they just wanted to put you in a headlock. And, and so I was always on edge. But coming here, like, I have said many times, like, oh, no, like, the Raleigh Police Department, those guys are just doing their job. Like, I don't feel like they're just
numbers.
trying
like,
to
they don't
sit
care.
in the corner and get tickets from left and right.
I once got in trouble with the LAPD, let's say. You can all look in my history, although I think it's been expunged, but nonetheless. I have some contacts with the New York PD and kind of talked to them about advice, and they said, because if you guys know that Ray Kelly was famously two-time police commissioner in New York City, and he also went out to Los Angeles, and even he said, he's like, the culture is so different because all of those police officers in Los Angeles are coming from a military background,
right?
And they never instill that community idea for them, and it's them against you, versus New York. And what it sounds like about Raleigh is no, we're the police officers that are a part of this community, so I'm going to try to better the community, not just put up a brick wall and say do it this way or do it that or go home.
In Los Angeles' defense, gangs are it's a different story when you're working with gangs. So like when you work with crackheads and you work with all these,
clearly a gang member.
That's fine, but because the gangs are so infiltrated, like you cannot handle a gang member reasonably because all he wants to do is gang rank in that gang. And so whatever his peers or his uppers are going to tell him to do, he's going to go do it. So if they say go fight a cop tonight, he's going to go pick a fight with a cop tonight.
Yeah.
If they say go sell X amount of crack, they're going to go sell X amount of crack. And so they don't care about the law. And I think that we as a society are giving way too much credit to these gang members. And really we're starting to create laws that protect the gang members. When no cops are abusing crackheads, no cops are having uses of force with your petty thefts. Like all this stuff with Ferguson, all those things, those were like hardened gang members that are mean human beings, evil people, guys that want to hurt you, guys that are raping women in the night. Like this is the guys that you don't want to run into at 3:00 in the morning. Those are the guys that we're hunting.
Yeah.
And you can't hunt them with an open hand of kindness. You just can't. We've tried. Everybody's tried because they don't want it. All they want to do is be bad. Now, a crackhead, you can because they don't want to be there. They don't want to be a crackhead. It's just something that's consumed them. An alcoholic doesn't want to be an alcoholic. It's something that has consumed them. But a gang member chooses to be a gang member. There's no consumption there. He's not addicted to gang life. He just woke up one day and was like, that sounds appealing. I can be an asshole all day.
Also, I would also appreciate that he might be it's a different form of addiction and a different form of affliction because that might be his normal and that's his life.
Right, yeah.
Not to say that that's fine at all,
right.
But a kid that gets beat up every day by his parents,
and I get it.
That's the only thing that he knows.
Or the only way to be protected versus other gangs.
It's me against you.
And so that's where that me against you thing comes from. And so when you run into gang members, it's really hard to not be aggressive. In LA, is so rampant with them.
Right. But the narrative with LA cops is so bad from like every music that you'll ever listen to
right.
that everyone is on alert and everyone hates the cops. So what came first? It's like there's hate going both ways, and so it's lousy.
And for me, like because I've known so many cops, and just like I've known so many soldiers, and we get such a bad rap being in the military. Like when in 2005, nobody liked nobody liked the military in 05. Like everybody was like, this is Bush's war and we don't support it. And you came back and nobody really, it's not like it is, in the Obama years, people kind of celebrated soldiers again. But during the Bush administration, which is when I started, people really didn't like the war at all.
Yeah.
And so, all the movies portrayed the soldiers being this like brainwashed, I'm going to kill everything and without disregard. But that's not really the way it is. Like soldiers and police alike, they join because they want to serve, and they are humans and they're nice people. And, I hope that I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on and talk about that. Like,
Sure.
I always do want to know, like, why, and the answer is always different for every person, but, like, why did you want to be a cop? Like, there is...
Because I was a C student, and I didn't have any college. So what else do you do when you get out of the military? You have to become a cop. I tried selling wine. Shit salesman. So I was like, damn, what else do I do?
Did you sell me wine one time?
I'm sure I did.
Yeah, I don't think I bought it.
Probably not. Nobody bought wine that I tried to sell. Hey, would you like a Gruner Veltliner? Like, what is that? Oh, it's wonderful. You'll love it. No, I'll just have my Sterling Chardonnay and I'll be okay. Are you sure? No. So.
No, it's interesting. Well, look, man, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Look, this is a fairly long episode of ours, but I don't think we stopped talking about cool stuff. So it was like let's keep talking. Before you get out of here, we do want to send you on your way with some Proof alcohol ice cream.
Ooh, yeah.
Think differently about your dessert, and this is coming from Columbia, South Carolina. We crossed the border for something that's pretty awesome, and they fuse spirits like what you're making in with what everybody loves, ice cream, and put it together. So there are many flavors: apple moonshine, coconut rum, that bourbon caramel.
I'm a bourbon guy.
I think you're gonna go home with a coconut rum.
Yeah. Well, before you head out, go to our Proof alcohol ice cream freezer that's in the kitchen lobby right there, and select what you want. Go take it from there. Matt, what else you got, man?
Well, I just want to say to Johnson County, thank you for lending us your story today.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing what you do, and especially instilling the proper values. So
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Man. It's been a pleasure. I love what you guys do. You guys are top of the game.
Thank you. Go out there, go to your ABC stores, go to Revival, go to Instill Distillery, and pick up some Instill. You will drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.